The storm raged outside, but it was nothing compared to the tempest of terror inside the decaying mansion. Sarah's footsteps echoed through the endless corridors, each step sending a wave of dread crashing over her. The air was thick with the stench of rot, decay, and something far worse, something ancient, malevolent, and hungry. The walls seemed to close in around her, their surfaces pulsating as if alive, covered in a sickly, pulsating flesh. Faces, twisted, tortured, and screaming in eternal agony, pressed through the wallpaper, their mouths wide in silent, soundless wails. The house groaned and creaked, not from the wind, but from the weight of countless souls trapped within its cursed walls. "Don't look behind you." The whisper was so close, so intimate, it felt like icy breath against her neck. Sarah's heart pounded so violently it felt like it might burst from her chest. She wanted to run, to scream, but her body refused to obey. She forced herself forward, step by agonizing step, the whispers growing louder, more insistent, more twisted. They weren't just warnings, they were commands, laced with a hideous pleasure. "Don't look behind you. They're coming for you." Suddenly, a shriek pierced the air, sharp and guttural, like a dying animal's last cry. It was followed by another, then another, until the mansion was filled with a cacophony of death. The voices were everywhere, surrounding her, penetrating her mind, drowning her in their despair. Sarah's flashlight flickered, the light dimming until she was left in almost complete darkness. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her skin prickling with the feeling of unseen eyes watching her, mocking her. The walls began to drip with thick, dark blood, the crimson streams forming horrific images, figures writhing in pain, limbs torn asunder, eyes wide in endless terror. Then, she felt it, a hand, cold and clammy, brushing against her arm. It wasn't human. It was too long, too thin, the fingers ending in sharp, blackened claws. The touch sent a jolt of pure horror through her body, and she nearly collapsed under the weight of her fear. "Don't look behind you," the voice hissed again, this time with a sinister laugh. But she couldn't resist. The need to see, to confirm her worst fears, overpowered her. With trembling hands, she slowly turned her head. And there it was, the creature that haunted her nightmares, now fully realized. It was a grotesque mockery of humanity, its body contorted into impossible angles, bones jutting out through decayed flesh. Its face was a nightmare, a gaping maw filled with rows of jagged, yellowed teeth, eyes nothing but black voids that sucked in all light, all hope. Its skin was stretched tight over its skeletal frame, and it reeked of death, of centuries of decay and torment. It moved closer, its mouth widening in a horrific grin, revealing more teeth than should have been possible. The creature's head twisted and cracked, its neck elongating as it loomed over her, its breath hot and rancid against her skin. It whispered again, "Don't look behind you." But it was too late. The walls around her began to bleed more profusely, the blood pooling at her feet, thick and viscous, trapping her in place. From the darkness, more figures emerged, spectral beings, their faces twisted in eternal screams of pain. They surrounded her, their hollow eyes filled with a desperate hunger. They clawed at her, their fingers scraping her skin, leaving deep, burning gashes. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The creature's laughter grew louder, filling the air with a sound that could only be described as pure evil. The specters wailed and moaned, their voices a symphony of suffering that echoed in her mind, driving her to the brink of madness. And then, with one swift motion, the creature lunged at her. Its jaws snapped shut around her neck, the teeth sinking into her flesh.